Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn. Now, things are starting to look a little bit more like an actual living space. Things are starting to get set up, so I am moved into the new apartment. As I promised you in the last video, each video we're going to be a little bit more set up. We're a little bit more set up. It's a little bit more functional now. Today's deck is one of my favorite decks, and it happens to be a somewhat budget brew, which is really awesome for those of you out there who are trying to rank up in the new meta and don't have a lot of wild cards to spend. This is the perfect deck for you, most likely. Before we get to the deck, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons over at patreon.com/quarantinedcapricorn. That's Yuck Fuzi, Noah Vincent, Squirrel, and Brittany at the Brew Crew Elite tier. And then, of course, our forever CPU savior, Terrence Rohrbach. Thank you guys so much for your contributions. I'd also like to let you know that we do have a spoiler playlist for Lost Caverns of Ixalan with spoiler shorts with my takes on the cards. I'm going to link that up above and down below, so check that out if you're interested. I've started to add some of the alchemy cards on there. I know, cringe, I kind of hate alchemy, but I'm doing the damn thing, so check that out if you're interested. Click that like button because that helps a lot, and subscribe if you're new. But this deck is called YOTIAN Firestarter, and it's built around an artifact aggro theme with Yotia Declares War at its heart. But we've been upgrading it with every set, and it gets incredibly crazy upgrades from Ixalan in the form of Dowsing Device. I'm not even going to get into it. We'll break it down in the deck tech. But like I said before, like, subscribe, do the thing. Catch me live over on Twitch Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/quarantinecapricorn. Because if I'm live and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. Let's check out this deck. Alright, so this is one of my favorite decks, and it's got some really cool new toys from Lost Caverns of Ixalan that just make it so much more insanely crazy and over the top. So we're going to talk about the new cards in a minute, but let's go over the basis of the deck to start. The idea is we're jamming a whole bunch of artifacts, a whole bunch of artifact creatures, and we're being very aggressive in the beginning. It's sort of like pretends to be an aggro deck, but then we're just slipping in something with evasion. We have a ton of things that have, you know, some form of evasion on them, and we're just, you know, innocuously slipping it in, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere buffing it to high hell and just alpha striking for the win because they don't have something that can block it. So at the bottom of the curve, we've got one Skrelv, because this lets one of our things be unblockable. It can also protect some of our creatures, and it counts as an artifact, so we're going to get artifact triggers off of it. We've got 4 Swooping Lookout, because this is a 1/2 flying vigilance 4/1. It's going to come down, it's going to be a part of our early aggression, but then out of nowhere, this is one of those evasion creatures that we can just buff to high hell and just swing in with for the win. And because it has vigilance, our opponent can't use like Wandering Emperor to deal with it, which is really sweet. We've got 4 Kumano faces Kakkazan. This is usually a very good turn 1 play to set us up to get an extra counter on a creature turn 2. Works very well with Patchwork Automaton, one of our 2-drops. 1/1 ward 2 for 2. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Patchwork Automaton. Now, Automaton is so good because it gets super big super quick, but also our opponent can't deal with it until a little bit later in the game because of Ward 2. So by the time they can deal with it, it's already doing so much work, and it forces them to use up all of their mana and spend basically their whole turn just dealing with the Automaton. But everything else in this deck is so cheap and putting so much pressure on the opponent that having to take an entire turn off to only deal with the Automaton, while we've still been slamming card after card, that's putting a lot of pressure on them and helping close out the game. It's really hard for them to deal with this and not be at a huge tempo disadvantage. So this card's amazing. But getting back to the 1-drops, we have 4 Gingerbrute as well. 1/1 hasty dude. We can sack it to gain life if we absolutely need to. It's an artifact, so it's gonna work with our artifact synergies. But what really makes this card awesome is we can pay 1 to make it unblockable except by creatures with haste. And that's just as good as flying, sometimes better against certain decks. So this is another creature that we can just buff to high hell out of nowhere and just swing in with for the win. We've also got one Eater of Virtue. It is legendary, so I'm okay keeping this at 1. But just as a 1-drop artifact to trigger our artifact synergies, and then be able to equip for just 1 mana for an extra +2 attack on whatever creatures are still on the board. And then we do have a lot of creatures in this deck that, if they die, are going to apply awesome keywords to this Eater of Virtue. The Gingerbrutes give haste, the Swooping Lookout gives flying and vigilance, and there's some more coming as well. So Eater of Virtue as a 1-of, really great in this deck. We've also got 4 Mishra's Research Desk and 4 Experimental Synthesizers for card draw. And having this much cheap card draw when everything in the deck is super cheap, it lets us run a much lower land count, because it's super easy to just dig for lands with these cards and not really come up against a situation where we hit something we can't play because everything in the deck is so cheap. So we can take some of those chances trying to dig for land and usually still cast whatever we hit, even if it isn't a land. And then each of these gets to be used twice. Each of them triggers our artifact synergies. Absolutely insane. Moving on to the 2-drop slots, along with those Patchwork Automatons, we've got just 1 Sir Ginger, because as our creatures die, as our artifacts die, this thing gets really, really big. Not only that, but if they happen to have a Planeswalker, it's just super good anti-Planeswalker tech, because it'll get hexproof, haste, and trample as soon as they have a Planeswalker, which means they can't use Wandering Emperor against it, because as soon as they slam Wandering Emperor on the field and try to exile it, now it's got hexproof and they can't. So this card is really, really good. It is a legendary. I like keeping this at a 1-of, just like I do Eater of Virtue and just like I do Skrelv, because I'd rather have 1 of each of those than 3 of any one of those, if that makes any sense, because every now and then you might get 2 of them together, and being able to play them both and get value off of all of your cards instead of being stuck with 1 in your hand is really, really good. Speaking of legendary artifacts, we also have 1 Agatha's Soul Cauldron. This is really good, mostly because it can eat a Gingerbrute from the graveyard to give all of the creatures in your deck that have +1/+1 counters this pay 1 to be unblockable except by creatures with haste ability, which is absolutely insane in a deck that can pump up its creatures to high hell. Especially with the Patchwork Automaton, it's going to get huge with counters anyway, so you just got to play a Soul Cauldron, eat a Gingerbrute. You don't even need to put the counter from the Soul Cauldron that turn on the Automaton. You could put it on a different creature, and then you could pay 1 mana for each of those creatures and just swing them on through unblockable. Pretty insane. But again, it is legendary, and you do need the right cards to make it really super work well. So we are just going to run 1. But sometimes even not having the Gingerbrute here, Agatha's Soul Cauldron can still be good just as a way to like eat our opponent's creatures out of their graveyard and just get free +1/+1 counters, while also being an artifact that fuels our artifact synergies. So it's really good in this deck regardless. I mean, it can even add the Skrelv ability to our creatures, which is kind of nutty. And then we've got 4 Michiko's Reign of Truth. This is the primary way that we're pumping up our evasive creatures. We just innocuously get evasive creatures onto the field. We get in some early aggro damage, and then Michiko's Reign of Truth comes out of nowhere, pumps up our big flyer, pumps up our can't be blocked except by haste dude, and we just smash in for the win. If it isn't the win, it triggers again on Chapter 2. And then when it flips to Chapter 3, sometimes we can even give it haste and attack with the Portrait of Michiko right away, with some cards that I'm going to get to in just a minute here. We've also got 4 Yotia Declares War, one of the namesake cards of the deck. Chapter 1, we make a Thopter, which again is another flying creature, so it gives us that evasive creature innocuously on the board that our opponent doesn't think they have to worry about, that can be pumped up later, but it also counts as an artifact for all of our artifact synergies. And then on Chapter 2, we get really good removal in this deck. We have so many damn artifacts that we can just tap whatever artifacts we need and kill whatever creature we need to on their side with Chapters 2. So the fact that we get an enchantment and an artifact onto the board, which is 1 card for 2 mana, and that artifact is a flying creature that can be buffed up later, and on Chapter 2 we get removal. All of that in just 1 card is so good in this deck. And then on Chapter 3, we can turn one of our artifacts into a 4/4. Sometimes that's the Thopter, so that it can actually swing in for damage. Sometimes we can turn something into a 4/4 and buff it up with the Reign of Truth to swing in for like 12, which is nutty. But either way, this card just provides a ton of value, and it's an absolute must-have, especially because the Saga itself gets counted with Michiko's Reign of Truth because it gives +1/+1 for artifacts and enchantments. That's why all the Sagas in this deck are so good, even though they're not artifacts, like Yotia Declares War and Kumano faces Kakkazan. Really, really good. Moving on to the new cards. The most important one, Dowsing Device. This card is absolutely insane. It's one of my favorite cards in the new set, and in a deck like this where almost everything is artifacts, it's absurd. It's almost like it only costs 1 mana, even though it costs 2, because it's 2 mana for an artifact. When it comes into play, you give any creature +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. And then whenever any artifact comes into play, you get to do that again, but whenever you have 4 or more artifacts on the field, you flip this into a land called Geode Grotto that can immediately tap for red mana, or give you the ability to pay 3 and tap it, and give a creature +X/+0 and haste. Don't overlook the haste part. That's what makes it kind of like even crazier than it otherwise would be, where X is the number of artifacts you control. So even without the Geode Grotto giving you that extra ability, the fact that this can come down, give something +1/+0 and haste, a lot of times flip right away, or maybe you just have to play 1 more artifact, give another thing +1/+0 and haste, and then it flips, and then you can immediately use the red mana from the Geode Grotto to play another artifact. It just lets you put so much pressure on the field so quickly. Like getting a free land ramp in a deck like this where you're just trying to vomit everything in your hand out onto the field as quick as possible is kind of insane, and getting +1/+0 and haste triggers in the process is also really nutty. It's also cool that when you play an artifact creature while Dowsing Device is in play, the artifact creature counts as an artifact and can give itself the +1/+0 and haste from the Dowsing Device and immediately swing in, which is really, really awesome. But then, in the late game, when you're completely out of gas, you can just, this is another way to give one of your flying creatures, or one of your, Gingerbrutes that can't be blocked except by haste. It's another way to give them a huge buff and just alpha strike in for the win. You pay 3, tap it, one of your creatures gets +X/+0, which is usually a huge amount, 5, 6, 7 power, and you just swing in for the win. This card is absolutely absurd, even without that ability. With that ability tacked on in a deck like this, where you're just vomiting everything out onto the field as quick as possible, running out of gas, and then looking for something to put your mana into, it's just absolutely absurd. I originally was only running 2 or 3 of these, and it was just so good I had to move up to 4. And moving up to 4, as well as having the 8 different card draw cards in the form of Mishra's Research Desk and Experimental Synthesizer, is what really helps our land count be much lower. We're running 17 lands, but we can kind of count the Dowsing Devices as lands, so really with the Dowsing Devices in the mix, it's like we have 21 lands, and it's super easy to find them because of these 8 draw cards, or exile and play cards that can be used multiple times each. Just gets really absurd. And then we've also got 2 Dusk Rose Reliquary to go alongside our 4 Yotia Declares War as a nice 6 card removal package. Just 1 mana. You have to sacrifice an artifact or creature when you play it, but you get to exile any artifact or creature for just 1 mana, which is nuts. And this artifact itself has Ward 2, so it's a lot harder for them to kill this artifact and get back their thing, especially without losing tempo, which, if this deck gets a tempo lead, that's makes all the difference in the world. So a card like this is really good in this deck. Normally, we're going to want to try to sacrifice something like Experimental Synthesizer to get extra value off exiling another card to play. But we have plenty of little artifacts that, if we're in a pinch, we don't necessarily mind sacrificing them to the Dusk Rose Reliquary. It's also can hit bigger targets sometimes than Yotia Declares War, although you'll be surprised. We've killed Sheoldreds with Chapter 2 on Yotia Declares War many, many times, but if you are in a pinch, you can hit something huge with a Dusk Rose Reliquary. So it's nice having those 2 to round out our 6-card package of removal. And then one more new card, we have Dire Flail. This is an artifact equipment for 1 red mana. It equips for 1, and an equipped creature gets +2/+0. So in a lot of ways, it's almost like a second Eater of Virtue. The difference is it's not legendary like the Eater, so we can have both in play at the same time and both equipped at the same time, and we get a little bit of extra value with the Dire Flail in a similar way that we do with the Dowsing Device, whereas when we're out of mana and out of gas, we can use Geode Grotto. Well, when we're out of gas and we have enough mana to pay this craft ability, we can craft with another artifact for 5. A lot of times we can just eat something out of our graveyard that our opponent dealt with earlier in the game, not have to get rid of board presence on the field, and this turns into Dire Blunderbuss. Blunderbuss, which is not only going to give a +3/+0 now to the creature it equips instead of the +2/+0, but whenever that creature attacks, now you can sacrifice an artifact other than the Blunderbuss, and the creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So if you get that Dire Blunderbuss on your huge automaton, or on one of your other creatures that got pumped up by a Michiko's Reign of Truth, or Chapter 3 of Yotia Declares War, or, you know, the Geode Grotto side of Dowsing Device, or whatever, a lot of times you could just destroy the biggest creature on the field easily by just sacrificing a random little artifact that you happen to have out that you don't need anymore. Sometimes maybe even a synthesizer. Doesn't come up very often. Most times we kill our opponent before we ever get to that point, but having this extra value, this other thing that we can put alongside our other mana sinks so that when we are out of gas, we do have things to do, is a very nice upside. So I like having at least one of these in the deck. It's super good. I don't know if we can afford to fit more than this. The deck is super tight full of things, which is why I don't necessarily mind having just one of all of those legendaries that I talked about earlier. And the mana base is very particular so that we can almost always have curve out with a play on 1, 2, and 3 without having tapped lands, but make sure we have access to the colors we need, because a lot of the things that need the specific colors like don't have a lot of room for colorless. So we have 4 Sundown Pass, 4 Battlefield Forge, just the 1 Bivouac because we don't want to have too many tap lands, but I think the first one we come across is absolutely worth it to add some extra value again to the late game. We've got 1 Mirrex because it can mana fix us the turn it comes out at least, and then later in the game it gives us artifact tokens that work with our artifact synergies, which is really nice. We've also got just 1 Thrawn Portal. We're sort of using this as just a 10th dual land to just be that much more consistent with our red and our white because we have such a low land count, and there are so many things in the deck that need specific colors to function well. So we're having just 1 Thrawn Portal here to make sure we can curve out with untapped lands and get the color we need. And then we've got the 1 Sokenzan, the 1 Eiganjo, 2 plains, 2 mountains for a total of 17 land alongside the Dowsing Devices, which is going to give us another 4 up to 21 very consistently, more consistently than you'd think. This thing is just doing its stuff, and it's flipping over, and it's giving us mana, and it just does so much. The deck is insane. I can't wait to try brewing a 3-color version of this, so I'd like to hear your comments down below about what other color you'd like to see us throw into the mix to make a 3-color variant. We could do black for something like Anvil, we could do green for something like Teething Wormlet, we could do blue for some of the really good blue artifact synergies. There's a lot of different options, so let me know in the comments below which 3-color version you'd like to see me try to brew. And with all that out of the way, we just got to get to the games, man. These games are absolutely insane, so let's do it. Slow hand is slow. It's a really good hand, but it's really slow. Let's mulligan it. This is better. We'll keep this. We'll go turn 1 Sundown Pass, turn 2 Automaton. I think we're going to toss back. Michiko's Reign of Truth, which might seem a little bit crazy, but if we can turn 2 Automaton, turn 3 Gingerbrute Research Desk, Dowsing Device, can do some pretty crazy work, right? Underdog, sure. Oh god, another Dowsing Device. Alright, well, we'll just jam that past the turn. He may have to spend his entire turn cutting down the automaton here. If he doesn't, he's in for a world of hurt. Okay, he didn't. Welcome to pain. Welcome to a whole lot of pain. So, Dowsing Device. Trigger. Boom. Gingerbrute. Do we even want to? I don't even think we want to swing with the Gingerbrute, to be honest. And then Research Desk. Well, maybe we can offer the trade with Jadar. He'd have to take 11 if he wants to play the Gingerbrute. Alright, he just takes it all. I think next turn we just win. Probably. It's kind of insane. Plays a Braids. Swings 2, that's fine. But then he can't sack it to Braids. I think that was wrong. Oh, he can just do that. Decline. Well, here we go. We go Swooping Lookout. Dowsing Device. Trigger on the Lookout. Then we will crack the desk, because we can. See if we find something good. I mean, Sir Ginger at this point is going to be better, right? Alright. We'll give this guy unblockability. And we'll swing in. He's got to trade some dodos away. Still take 3 no matter what. Which is pretty strong. What's up, Foozy? Yeah, we can definitely get in the match. Absolutely. This deck's just really powerful, man. Dowsing Device is just gnarly. It's just so good. So, this is so nuts. This is so nuts. I mean, I think we play this, right? I don't think we even worry about activating the Geode Grottos. They're extra. And we have so much insanity right now. I don't see how he gets out of this. Just do that. No matter what, we get in for 1. He could have, like, removal for the Lookout and then chump block the other 2. Okay. On the play, we'll keep it. We need another land, but that's okay. Absolute insanity. Come on, Hiroj. It's your go, buddy. Tasha's staring at me like she's so ready to bring me pain, and you're not doing it. Just do it. Yeah, I assume you came up with that deck, Fuzi, by trying to game the RNG of the shuffler with specific numbers. Would you look at that? Actually letting us play. Unbelievable. Oh, we'll go like this. And then we'll go like this. And then we'll swing. I like it. I think it's pretty wild. Human Coppercoat Vanguard. When you cast the next creature spell. Well, we need a land. We need to try to dig for a land. 1, 2. We don't have 4. Just do this. Swing with just that, get in for 2. Should be fine. I think we're about to go off next turn, so... Our opponent is so frustrating. They must be playing on a Nokia cell phone. Out of line, sure. You're out of line. Tap any number. I will, thanks. 1, 2. Kill the Vanguard. Go down to a 2/4. We'll go Dusk Rose Reliquary. Sack the Synthesizer. Grab the Adeline. Play the Yotia Declares War. Chapter 1. Swing 6. Pass the turn. And then next turn we are... we're there, baby. Adversary 4/2. 4/4. Tap you and you. Kill you. Dude, wild. Absolute insanity. Just keeps going. Goodbye. Dowsing Device, man. Skeleton joke. A joke of a skeleton. We will keep this. This is actually a really good start for us. We'll go Mountain Kumano. And then Forge Automaton. And then Mirrex, go to town. Good lord. Good lord. Just insane. Hammer Skull. Smash. Next turn's gonna be even nastier. Hulking Raptor, sure. Do a little bit of this. See if we can grab something. Perfect. We'll jam you. And then we'll play you. Guess we just smack with that. We get another trigger next turn, we should be able to get through. We should be able to get through. Glimpse the core. That's not looking so great for you. Hulking Raptor, sure. I guess we go here. Do we try and hit something off the synthesizer? Or do we play the Sir Ginger? I think we try and hit something off the synthesizer, honestly. No dice, huh? No dice. Get through for 8 with the Gingerbrute. And then next turn we can swing all and just get through for the win, I think. Gisheth. Okay. Seven, 6. We'll let him hit one. That's fine. Deal one card. Okay with that. So we'll go Sir Gingy. Can't be blocked. Probably don't even need to do that, but I'm gonna. See what you got. And then you take 4. Wow. This is okay. We can keep this. It's a little slow because we're going to have to skip a 1-drop. But that's okay. We can Automaton on 2. And then we can just start going to town. Automaton. Dowsing Device. Let's see. Swooping Lookout. We probably have to Dusk Rose Reliquary, right? So we'll go like this. And then we'll play this. Sack you. Dracosaur. Swing 2. Just kind of had to do that. Hammer Skull. That's fine. Hammer Skull is fine. We'll just kill the Lore Keeper because it's free, basically. We'll go like this. Go like that. Then we'll go like this. Then go like that. And then we'll go like this. And we'll go like this. Go ahead and trade your Hammer Skull. You get in for 2. Geode Grotto is going to come in clutch this game, I think. I'm not going to use it next turn. We're going to empty our hand first. But the turn after that, it might just be for the win with Geode Grotto. No blocks. Just got no mana, so we can do this. And then we can do this. I guess we just go like this, and then this on chapter 1. And then we just smash in for 7, and then next turn we win. Seems reasonable. It's Holly. I think we still win. But we'll see. We shall see. Grabs a Synthesizer, hits a Hulking Raptor. Swooping Lookout, Lore Keeper. Not great hits. Fight Rigging on the Lookout? Okay. Hits another Fight Rigging. Hides away again. Tap any number of artifacts we control. Kill you. Because why not? We can. Synthesizer. We'll go white. Oh, so close. So close. So close. Gisheth, okay. More fight rigging nonsense. Trample, trample. So he's got us, right? Because of the trample. Oof. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, we wanna double block the Gisheth, right? And we go to 1. And he gets to hit 5 cards. Gets a Hulking Raptor. Oh god. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Did I just fuck up? I might have just fucked up. Yeah, I can't use the Thron portal. It's okay though. Hit for 5. Hit for 1, I guess. Oh man, I kind of screwed up and punted. You're crazy. Crazy man. Do we need to play a 2-drop? No. Go Forge Lookout. Do we want Dire Flail equip, or do we want Dowsing Device? think we want to get Dowsing Device down. Go ahead and use your crowbar. Think I'm scared? You think I'm scared of your little crowbar? Do it. Do it, old maid. Do it, old maid. Yeah, that one. Express elevator to hell. Alright, we're gonna start with Synthesizer. Because I can. Boom. Let's exile something. A land. Sick. I like the way you work it. No diggity. Flippy. Flip flippity. Let's go. Do it. Do it if you want. Do it. Do it, old maid. Do it, old maid. L'Orange. We've got a Bivouac. Who needs creatures? Mondrak. The Glory Dominus. Does bring all the glory. That's not a lie. And you just go like this. And we'll go like this. And we'll go like this. We have no creatures, but it's okay. Next turn we might be able to just go wild. Might as well get rid of the crowbar. Don't think we got enough here, man. Let's crack the research desk and see if we can find something. More lands! Alright, we flooded out like crazy. 17 land deck, guys. 17 land deck. And we went through 8 of them, almost half of them, in the top quarter of our deck. Seems fair. Let's see, 3, 4, 5. Just not enough, right? We need blockers. We need blockers. We need blockers. Don't have a lot of options. We just gotta do this. 2 more lands? What the fuck? We only have 7 lands left in our deck. This is stupid. This game is stupid. This game is for nerds. I forgot to pile. I forgot to fucking pile. That's the problem. Why didn't I pile before I offered my opponent The cut. Damn shame. Alright, we brutin'. We brutin' tootin', swinging for one. Jean Grey on the prowl. It's okay, I'm fine with that. We're gonna go white. That's not a racist comment. We're gonna play the Patchwork Automaton, and we're gonna swing one. You can't kill my automaton. I believe it is, yes. We got a Dusk Rose Reliquary, baby. Just going off. I'll make you waste your removal on my Gingerbrute, you fool. You absolute fool. Squee. No blocks. Think I'm worried? Do you think I'm worried? Give me a land. One time I actually want a land. It won't give me one. This time it will, though. Haha! Suck it, Trebek. Alright, we could swing for 10. I don't think we need to swing for that much, though. I think we should hold back a chump blocker. Just to be safe. And then we can kill him next turn. You never know. He could have a couple haste guys, and then a play with fire to my head. There's one haste guy. There's the other haste guy. So that's what? 6 damage? Three damage. We can go to 5. Unless, does he have a lightning strike and a shock in his hand? He's already used one lightning strike. No blocks. Weird that he didn't attack with Feldon, though. He must just want to block with Feldon, I guess. I think we just win. I think we just win. Yeah, we'll just win. Chapter 2. Tap the Reliquary. Kill the blocker. Play a Gingerbrute. Buff up our boys. And then just smash. Right? What plane is Yotia located on? I'm almost positive it's Dominaria. Because that's from, like, the Yotian Soldier is from way, way back. Right? Alright. Need one more good win. One more good win. Capital of Zalfir? It might be. I'm really not sure. I thought it was like an empire. You know, I didn't think it was like a city within an empire. But you might be right. Ugh, one land and it's a Thrawn portal? No thanks. This looks a lot better. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna dump the Soul Cauldron. We're gonna be happy about it. We're gonna play the Sundown Pass. What weapon did Elspeth use to escape the underworld? Well, I know it was a sword. I don't remember the name of the sword. But it was a specific sword. Alright, Patchwork Automaton. You can't play with fire it. Sorry. Sorry, buddy. Sorry. Fell down. It's gonna be one of those games. Mono Red just thinks it's so cool. Yeah, I was thinking the Shadow Spear, if it's not a sword. But I thought it was a sword at first. Charming Scoundrel. Alright, smash me for 3, that's fine. Blocks. Not worried about it. Really, really not worried about it. We're going to lead with the Synthesizer here. Let's see what we hit. A Skrelv. We'll play the Skrelv. We'll play a Swooping Lookout. And we'll swing 4. Hold up a blocker. Could have just swung and got you down to 9, but this is much smarter. It would require all of his mana and a removal spell. That's the beauty of it. I mean, I guess he could have a pump spell for Feldon. That would be a little rough. Still probably fine, though. I mean, we're left with one automaton, you know? He just wants to play things, I guess. Play with fire and Kumano. So he can play them both, and he can kill the automaton if he wants to spend all of his mana. But then he's way behind. That's crazy. He's way behind on board now, because we have the other automaton. That is nuts, dude. I can't believe he did that. Let's see what we hit. Gingy and Kumano. I guess we can grab Gingy. And then we'll equip the Dire Flail to the Lookout. And then we'll swing for 9. Your move, Odd Todd. Your move. Feldon. I could just use Skrelv on the automaton and name Red to kill you. So you can't even block. It's not good enough, man. Sure. I guess that's a thing. And maybe I only hit you for 3? Maybe? I think we'll go like this. I don't have lethal. I don't know why you think I have lethal. Oh, because Feldon can't block? Sick. I do have lethal. I forgot Feldon can't block, to be honest. Completely forgot. I don't know why he didn't attack with it then. We got him. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.